Good evening, this is Kuro. Got a replay in my Shimakaze on loop. Going through the matchmaking, I have an enemy Lexington, Buffalo, Cleveland, and just one other DD, another Shimakaze in the enemy lineup. Um this is a game that I recorded earlier, had a dinosaur on my lap, and just not able to record any audio at the time. They're just having a good time watching the boats blow up. And hope you like the replay. Hopefully we can find some things in the game that we can have some teaching moments about. Going ahead and gonna start this and kick this off, and away we go. Now, being the only destroyer on the enemy team, or on your team, and vice versa on the enemy team, and it's a domination map, you really are one of the most important pieces on the map. You need to play safe. You can't charge right in there to B-cap and get it on like you normally would. You've got to be a little more cautious and try to preserve your hit points, because you're really the easiest thing for your team to contest caps with. You don't want to have your team in the position where they've got to park a battleship or a cruiser in the cap to try to get that to flip the cap, because they're gonna take a beating, and they're really gonna trade a lot of HP for that cap. So looking at the chat, our CV, he's a little, there's a discussion about what the CV should do, and somebody recommends that the CV should snipe the enemy CV. And at tier 8, that's a really hard thing to do, because the enemy CVs, not only do they have fighters of their own, they've got, what should be good AA, they also get the defensive fire consumable, and it that just means that your first strike, it's done. You're just not going to be effective on that first strike, and either that, or you have to try to bait out the defensive fire and then try to come back when the defensive fire is down. And there's a lot that goes into it. So my suggestion is, it's a 1DD match. Go find the enemy destroyer, and at the very least, just keep a plane on him. Keep him spotted, let the team shoot at him, chip away at him, and eventually that guy's he's going to be crippled. He can't contest caps, and it's just, it makes it much easier to deal with him when you have persistent spotting from the air, especially against a ship like Shimakaze, which does not have AA defenses that are worth a damn at all. You'll shoot down, a plane here or there, but you're very vulnerable to the air. So I'm coming up here. My objective for pushing in this vicinity, I see the enemy team pushing the 7 line and C-cap hard. So I'm trying to get in to this arc right here, where I can start lighting anything up, where my battleships back in here can get some nice broadside shots on anything in here. The side benefit is that I'm going to have broadside shots for my torps on these targets. So I'm going and I'm lining up some torps I'm launching based on just a general prediction of where I see indicators going, and just basically, this is one of those cases. I'm actually trying to target at least 3 enemy ships, and I'm trying to stagger those launches out, so those torpedoes force all 3 of those ships to react to them. They may not all hit, none may hit, but the point is to make targets maneuver to to respond to the threat, because them turning can open up new angles of attack for, you know, an allied ship down here. And I happen to torp the enemy Monarch right there with 4 torpedoes, and I'm on the board with a kill. And stepping into B-cap, I am taking this position here. I'm trying to stay close to this island where I can try to use this as cover. I'm using this landmass right here as potential cover. Shimakaze is a boat that has very good acceleration. And why I'm so far away, I'm just kind of juking back and forth, trying to get, you know, last minute spots on ships in here, up in here, anything I can do to expose a ship to my allies where they can deal massive damage to that ship. I'm also looking at this Alsace here, kind of the position he's taking. He's kind of hemmed in here with this island, and he's kind of looking like an attractive torp target. Now, 007, they're a really good clan, and I know this guy's going to evade better than most battleships. So I'm skeptical if those torps are going to hit or not. I think they just got plane spotted. I should have had more patience to see if there was a spotter plane or something like that in the vicinity. And here I'm, you know, doing my job as a destroyer. I'm spotting all these torpedoes for my allies. You know, looks like Shimakaze dumped 2 narrow spreads, 1 wide spread, and you know, once I know that I'm safe, I'm reversing back into that position, because I lost spots down in this area, and I want to try to restore vision back to my team. And you'll start to pay attention if you have your in settings your spotting damage enabled. You can start to tell when you're starting to really get effective, because you'll start to see your spotting damage going through the roof. And you can see right now it's starting to tick. It's not a huge tick, but it's, you know, a drip and a drop here and there. I just spot the Buffalo. I'm popping speed boost. I'm anticipating radar, because he's a US cruiser and he's got radar very near his detection. I see my rune. He's making a choice that I don't really like. I'm trying to save his life with the smoke. You know, an argument can be made at this point. What's more important? One of my 3 smoke screens, or saving this tier 9 cruiser? And actually this rune, he stops, and you know, that miscue where, you know, I was pretty sure that he was headed forward, and that I would be able to capture him in that smoke screen, and by laying it long would give him a chance to turn out. Didn't work out that way. So he eventually makes it into my smoke screen, and what I'm hoping is that he's not going to shoot or try to use this for damage. And I'm telling him in chat, you need to get out. You know, you need to get safe, heal up, and come back and deal some damage, because the longer he's in the game, you know, the more fires he's generating, the more damage he's doing. My Yamato's, he's just throwing his ship away as well down here. I'm starting to get a bad vibe. I'm starting to see the trend that, yep, we're on the throw train. I'm launching some torpedoes down here. I have the sneaking suspicion these battleships are going to try to hug this island, or at least that this Iowa will. This Montana, I suspect he's going to go more deep, and I'm going to push up here and try to get some damage on these guys, because my team's starting to fall back on damage. Even though we've got the cap advantage, we've got a points advantage, my team just, they're dying too fast. So I'm coming up here and I'm gonna pull a Notzer, crash into an island, because I'm not paying attention. I'm more focused on what my targets are doing more than anything. And, that's a mistake right there. I should not be so fixated on targets that I ignore my mini-map while I'm driving. In my head, I know these torps are absolutely critical, that I need to start, getting more production out of my torpedoes, because the longer it goes on, the worse it's gonna start getting. Being down a ship and down guns, that's a lot of DPM that you got to try to make up for. And effective torpedoes, they can really turn the tide of battle. Land some torps on this Montana, and pretty much my game plan initially was looking to drop a second set on him and get the permanent floods, and then the CV comes in. And I personally think this was a misplay on the CV's behalf, because he should have struck me here. I'm the only destroyer in the game. Really, at this point, I'm the easiest, most valuable target for him to hit. Instead, he's, trying to farm damage off my Missouri, which actually probably helps my team more than if he would have struck at me. At this point, I'm looking at the mini-map. I'm trying to keep this island between me and the enemy the best I can, just because damage mitigation. I don't want to eat a bunch of damage for nothing. And I see that the enemy has finally started pushing into B-cap, so I need to start heading up there. The enemy Montana is finished off by my Baltimore. He burned him to death, probably in large part because my torpedoes reset his heal and his damage control and made him vulnerable to just being burned down. And so I'm coming up here. I notice these torpedo angles, and it strikes me as kind of odd that the Shimakaze would be on that angle of attack, because he's not really, he's making his team really pay to try to cap B-cap with this Alsace, and you're gonna see this guy's gonna take a beating. And he's doing it because, he's kind of got to. If he's not on that cap, our points are ticking away, and if we get, 1 or 2 kills, all of a sudden these guys are starting to look at, 800 points and being, 200-300 points down, and it's going to get ugly. I see the Buffalo pop up, and I'm expecting to get radared. He's pushing aggressively like he's got radar. Gonna drop a set of torps on this Montana over here. Mainly just because I had to turn out and trying to just get torpedoes off at the moment. At this point I'm trying to take a look around. There's a lot going on right now with the Shimakaze on A-cap. I'm popping speed boost to head back there. My friendly Cleveland, he's in trouble. He's going to be pinned down behind this island, and this is another case of is my smoke worth more for me, or am I going to get more utility giving it to this cruiser? And in this case, this Cleveland actually is in a semi-decent position. I'm hoping he can repay the favor where he shoots down these planes that are coming my way, because I don't need that kind of trouble right now. I got a lot going on. I'm in A-cap contesting A, and I'm looking to try to deal with this enemy Shima. Excuse me. And I see my CV's coming in for a strike on the Shima. Honestly, I think that this is really late. This should have been the #1 target, especially because this guy's been off on his own, probably most of the game. He was an isolated target, and should have been relatively easy for our CV to kill. Regardless, I come around the island and I start engaging, and you know, this is a case that I really think that their Shimakaze waited too long to start shooting. I'm not gonna let this guy get outside my detection. Not gonna let him drop off. So automatically, he started the gunfight 25% down, just because he waited too long to start shooting. And there goes the torp tube. More importantly, there goes his engine. He's got to blow his damage control, and right there, you know, if you're a good shot, you can do that frequently. And now he's in trouble. He's lost his engine again permanently. He's on fire, so his concealment's higher. And I'm starting to open the distance a little bit because I know that I'm doing a lot more damage to him. That's telling me that I've got better aim than him. And you know, right now I don't even know if this guy has last stand. The way he's moving, I'm inclined to say that he doesn't. Because I'm pretty much aiming closer and closer to the center line of the ship and landing hits. And right there, he was able to repair, and it's too late. At this point, I'm just trying to minimize any potential damage, and the enemy CV's, he's playing good. He's parked a fighter right on top of me, and there's nothing I can do about this. At this point, this game is pretty much a loss. We're down 2 caps, and my team is not in any sort of shape to push the caps. I'm trying to get my CV to send fighters in my vicinity to try to push that guy off, but at this point he may not even have fighters left. So I'm just going to try to stay as productive as I can, and I'm just going to try to put some jukes on and make this Buffalo work hard to get any damage that he can get. And since I'm detected, why not shoot? You know, it's always seemed kind of common sense to me that if you're spotted anyway, why not be doing damage to the enemy? I don't see, it's something I see a lot of Japanese destroyer players, they won't do, but you know, every little bit of damage, it helps. At this point, I'm seeing the torpedo planes come in, and this is just a questionable move. 10 kilometers coming around the corner in front of a Montana. I should be dead, and I noticed all of a sudden he doesn't have his guns on me. So at this point, I'm more worried about the torpedoes because he should be torping me. The Montana whiffs his shot because I was able to just reverse quicker than he intended. And I'm gonna scooch back up here, and there goes my Cleveland. Just gonna drop some torps. We're at 952 points. That pretty much sealed the deal right there. I'm just gonna pop out a smoke and, you know, get a last couple volleys off, because unless I can detonate this guy, it's, you know, this game's over. At this point, yeah, just gonna start shooting. I see that the torps aren't gonna make it in time, and you know, that's pretty much that. I mean, at this point, I can't even really traverse my guns quick enough to get on the Alsace in time. We're at 994, and that's game. Hope you enjoyed the game. Gonna go over the end plates. Basically, this game was just about trying to remain useful for your team. I used a couple smokes trying to keep people alive. It was debatable whether my smoke was better used for that or for keeping them alive. Um, but really, this game, I was just a pest to the enemy team. I just, appeared where they didn't want me to, uh, capped the points, got torps in, and just tried to be as productive for my team as I can. And you can tell by the XP, what happened in the game. Um, those two 007 battleships, they did a lot of work, especially that Alsace pushing actually into BCAP because that generated the pressure that forced us to into a position where eventually we weren't able to retake B. And you saw how much that he paid for those hit points. Um, he was almost dead by the end of the battle, and I kind of question what their Shima was doing because he was full health when I found him, and he was playing the game that I don't want to go to, a hot cap like B cap. I just want to skirt around, launch torps, and he made his teammates pay for it. Looking at the stats, 91k spotting. It's a decent amount of spotting damage. It's by far not the highest, but it's kind of showing that you're in a good position. If you've got 100k spotting damage, it shows that you're doing pretty good, and it is um, actually probably better than pretty good because you've got a CV in the game. The CV tends to, because he's got planes all over the place, he tends to suck up more of the spotting damage um, because he's a better spotter than a destroyer. His planes can spread out, cover more terrain, and are much, much faster than a destroyer can. Uh, 1.2 or 1.3 million potential damage. Um, I was still pretty healthy by the end of the match. I was still a little less than half HP, something like that. Um, Shimakaze and the Japanese DDs, they can be really hard to hit, hard to deal with. It's really how you drive them, and I see a lot of guys that they don't utilize them to their potential. So I hope you guys found this replay interesting. Another example of how to play a Japanese destroyer, particularly on this map. Particularly get some ideas out there for a CV match when you've got one destroyer and just kind of the things that you need to be thinking about to be successful. Yeah, the game was a loss. I consider it a successful game because I carried above and beyond my weight for the team to try to turn this into a win. And sometimes that's the best you can do. And you getting frustrated with the game or your team or anything like that. It's counterproductive. It's not going to help you. And you just sometimes you need to sit, chill, and drink a beer and try to think through what's not working for you and how you can make it work for yourself. And I've killed a lot of beers that way in this game, and um, I my blood pressure is a lot better for taking it, for handling it that way rather than uh, churning out nuclear levels of salt. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. Hope you guys enjoyed the replay, and I will talk to you later.